Sydney Powell is a straight A student all through high school. She's living the quintessential perfect life. She's best friends with her mom. Her mom, Brenda Powell, are inseparable. And, everybody just loved her and loved her relationship that she had with her mom because they were more like best friends rather than mother and daughter.
Yes, they would apparently hang out all the time, do fun family girl stuff. They would be very close to the point where they would tell each other stuff and kind of always be there for each other. So the fact that she murdered her mom had everybody
So let's get into why this ended up happening. So being a straight A student, she earned a scholarship to a local college. Now this college, it's local, but it was still a little ways out. So I believe she had a best friend that she went there with. That's why they settled on that school. And the school was about 40 minutes out from where she grew up.
Yep.
And
she had a scholarship, so her tuition was paid for, not fully, but for the most part it was paid for. It was like a presidential scholarship or something like that.
Yeah, so she still had to pay tuition, but just nowhere near the amount that she would have to pay without the scholarship. Well, if anybody has ever earned a scholarship or even knows anything, even a little bit about scholarships, you earn a scholarship, but now you have to keep it. So this scholarship that she had, we don't know all the particulars, but we do know one thing. Her GPA could not drop below a certain point. And all we know is that Sydney Powell's GPA did drop below a certain point.
And she got into probation.
Academic probation, which means you're not kicked out of school permanently. But when you end up on academic probation, I believe usually they give you a warning before you end up on academic probation, though, no?
No. So what happens is your grades are going, they see how things are going. If you're not passing classes and you're failing, they're gonna put you in probation. Meaning they're gonna watch you, they're gonna try to help you, make sure that you pass. If you don't pass, then that's when you get suspended.
That's when you get suspended. Okay, so she got put on academic probation.
Yep.
Then she got suspended.
Yep.
Now this is 2020. This is January 2020. January 2020, the school officially suspends her because her GPA had dropped down to a 2.2, which is pretty low and definitely below the agreed upon terms of her scholarship. With this probation, she has to sign paperwork. You have to agree to it. And when you get put on academic probation, you can't come back to the school until the next semester, which means from January 2020 to September 2020, Sydney Powell was supposed to be at home figuring her life out. Exactly.
But Sydney was not doing that. Sydney was doing the complete opposite.
Sydney was doing more than the opposite. Sydney I mean, it's not funny, but this part is, you got to admit, this part shows some high level of dedication. If she was this dedicated to her schoolwork, she would have never ended up in this predicament in the first place.
I agree.
Sydney Powell gets suspended in January of 2020. She is advised that she has to now leave campus and can't return until the next semester. Now, this is pretty tough for Sydney to swallow. She's been a straight A student her entire life. So for whatever reason, other than the obvious one that we know, which is she couldn't accept her failure, she says, well, fuck that, I'm not leaving. And she proceeds to stay on campus and somehow convince her friends and everybody that's around
and her
teachers that she's still enrolled.
Her professors, yes.
That she's still enrolled in college.
So she's faking her way through school, convincing everybody that she's still part of school, including still being a part of the sorority. So when the sorority girl goes up to, I guess, the dean of students, and she's like, hey, this is who needs to pay me for being part of the sorority this semester, the dean sees Sydney's name on the list and sees the dean. The dean is like, whoa, hold on. Sydney is not enrolled in the school. What do you mean Sydney needs to pay for being a part of the sorority?
Yes.
And then the sorority girl's like, Sydney's in school. Sydney's a part part of school. Sydney goes to classes,
yeah.
comes to the sorority. Sydney's part of everything. So then that's when the admissions dean people find out that Sydney has been staying in the campus and going to classes as if nothing happened.
Yes.
And that's when Sydney gets a call and gets a little visit. No. That's when Sydney gets called
into the office. Of the head of administrations.
Yes.
Michelle. I don't know her last name, but her first name is Michelle. She gets called into the office now, and Michelle starts telling Sydney, yo,
what are you doing?
What are you doing, fam? You are suspended. Do you know you're suspended? And Sydney goes, what? No, what? I'm suspended? What do you mean? But Sydney knew she was suspended because, like I said before, when you get suspended, you have to sign that you agree.
Yeah,
and if you suspended.
And usually when you're suspended in school, like if you were still in high school when you were a minor and stuff, like you or your parents would have to sign and they'd have to be in charge of that. But because you're like Sydney was in college and
she was 19,
she was an adult.
You're above 18. You get to sign for yourself.
You sign for yourself. So there's no point of the dean going to the parent and being like, "Oh, your child is suspended." Like that's not how it works.
Exactly.
So Sydney signed for herself. So Sydney knew she was
suspended. But she tried to play the role real quick, and it somewhat worked because Michelle said, "Well, hey, you might not have known it before, but you're going to know it now. Because I'm telling you, and it says that you signed. You know now, you're suspended, which means you can't participate in the sorority this semester. You can't be on campus. You can't be going to classes.
You can't live here.
You can't live here. However, you're more than welcome to visit your friends." Sydney agrees and goes, cool. I just need a few days to move out. Michelle, now up to this point, Michelle has been faking it, and her access card key is off.
Wait, Michelle's been faking?
I mean, my fault. Sydney has been faking being a student. So her access key to get to classes, to get through the dorms, to get into her, all that is off.
It's been off this entire time.
So Sydney's been top flight security faking it. Like, she's top 5 faker this whole time.
Been finessing.
But now that she had this conversation with Michelle, the who's in charge of administrations, gives her access. So reinstates her key card so that she can have an easier time moving out.
Right.
Few days later, Michelle stops by to see if Sydney left. Sydney has still not left. And Michelle has another conversation with her. It's like, yo, you gotta go. Do you need me to call your parents to like help you leave? Because I really can't have you staying here now. You've been suspended for damn near 2 months. This is late February. So now it's an actual pressing issue. Sydney goes, no, don't worry about it. My parents are already dealing with a lot. I got it. Trust me, I got it. I'm gonna get out of here. This is late February. Spring break is starting March 3rd, 2020. So that's only a few days away, about a week or so. So Sydney then finesses her way around this whole next week. She moves out. She moves out of the dorm, but she hasn't moved back home yet.
Nope.
Because in her mind, she's like, I will be damned if I go back home early and my parents start asking me a ton of questions as to why I'm home early. Because then I'm going to have to explain, this is what we're assuming, because this is the obvious explanation why she didn't want to go home.
Right.
She hasn't told her parents that she's on academic probation.
She hasn't told her friends.
She hasn't told her friends.
Nobody.
It's been almost 2 months. So now she's like, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
So fast forward now. She stays at hotels. She stays with friends.
She crashes on couches.
She managed to finagle her way through this last week of school that she's going to.
Right.
Up to March 3rd. Mm-hmm. Now, before we talk about March 3rd, because that's the fateful day that she actually ended up murdering her mom in brutal fashion. And we'll get into the more details as to why she did that.
Right.
But before, there's a few details that I need to flush out real quick.
Yes.
January 2020, tuition is due. Tuition automatically comes out of the father's account. January 2020, the dad realizes the money hasn't left my account. So he goes in there to pay it manually because he goes, well, I don't want it to lapse and there to be anything with my daughter. So he goes in there like a responsible parent to pay this tuition. He can't log in. Now,
no, he could log in, but he can't pay. There's nothing for him to pay.
No,
so
I heard he had trouble even logging in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard he had trouble logging in. But regardless, he couldn't pay the tuition.
Right.
So he hits up Sydney. Sydney,
What's going on?
you know, what's going on? I can't, you know, I'm trying to pay your tuition. I can't. Sydney says, oh, it's probably a bug in the system. I got it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to handle it. So he trusts her. All right, you're going to handle it. March 3rd, fateful day of spring break. This is the day everything comes to a head because everything happens at once. The dad tries to log in again. Now, it's March 3rd, spring break. He goes, yo, tuition still hasn't come. Let me try to get up in there. Can't get up in there. Can't pay. So now he goes, well, Sydney said she was going to handle it. Now I'm going to handle it. Calls up the school. Yeah, hey, I'm having trouble paying this tuition. They go, for who? He goes, my daughter, Sydney Powell. They go, oh, yeah, she doesn't go here. She's not enrolled this semester. That's why. He goes, what? Sydney's 19. Sydney's a grown woman. They're not telling him jack.
Nope.
They're just going to tell him, hey, yo, she's not enrolled. Take that up with your daughter.
We don't know.
It's her responsibility. If she whatever she wants to share, she hasn't given us permission to share nothing. So you got to go talk to your daughter. So he goes, what? So he has her location, you know?
Yep.
And him and his wife, Brenda Powell, which is Sydney's mom, have been realizing for months, the last 2 months, that, you know, Sydney comes back to visit on the weekends, but Sydney's also coming back at times throughout the week when
she should be in class.
So they were already a little suspicious. So now the dad's hearing that you're not enrolled, all this stuff. So he's like, what's going on? First of all, where's Cindy right now? Because
Right.
she's supposed to be in class. And if they're telling me she's not even enrolled, then that means she's not at class. So if she's not at class, where the hell is she?
Right.
He takes out his phone. He looks at her location. There's an app. I forgot the name of the app.
Yeah.
There's an app that they have where he can see her location. He checks her location, and Sydney is home. Now he goes
Earlier than expected because at that time, that day, she had to be in class. It was, I think, the last day of class.
Mm-hmm. So he goes, nah, no way. So I could pay 2 months ago. Thought it was a glitch in the system. Can't pay today. Thought it was a glitch in the system. They tell me she's not even enrolled. And now you've been coming home at odd times. And today you're home. Nah, something's up.
And you're not telling me.
And you're not
up.
telling me. I'm definitely going to get to the bottom. So
Right.
he leaves his phone at work and starts driving home. Now he leaves his phone so that way if Sydney's also looking at his location, she wouldn't know that he's on his way home.
Right.
He leaves the phone at work and he heads home, catches Sydney by surprise. Sydney, what's going on? You know, I can't pay. They saying you're not enrolled and you're home. Tell me what's really happening. Sydney goes, all right, you know, I'm going to come clean. I'm thinking about taking this semester off. Like, you know, Sydney just flat out fuck eyes to this hardworking man's face. I'm thinking about taking the semester off. Not I got suspended. She makes it seem like it's her choice.
Right.
So, of course, like any responsible father that's busted his ass to raise her to up to this point, that knows his daughter's capabilities when she puts her best foot forward, says, no, Sydney, I think, personally,
You should finish the semester.
and
And then you can take a break in the summer. And then we can figure it out. But right now, you need to finish this semester.
now I don't think he told her that you need to. I think he just said, I think it's best if you, and that's why the
yes,
next thing
something
he
like that, yeah.
says is what I think ends up stirring the pot to get this result that we ended up getting.